So recently people have been asking me to get to the secret cut Warthog run in Halo 2 Anniversary. But the thing is, it's not really possible to even see this within the normal confines of the game without modding or without using the Acrophobia skull. So can I get to this secret Warthog run? Let's give it a shot! So this Warthog run is extremely far outside of the map High Charity in Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. This Warthog run can only be seen in the Anniversary edition of this game, so you have to be playing Master Chief Collection. The thing about this Warthog run though is it's on High Charity, which is one of the largest structures in the entire Halo franchise. And it's located on the outside of the largest building. The problem with this, however, though, is most of this mission is played inside of this building and there are only two areas outside of this structure. One is at the very beginning of the mission and the second is at the very end. For this reason, it's not possible to see the uncut Warthog run? I don't know, there's a little bit of confusion with that because technically it was cut out of the game, but technically you can still see it as well. So it's both cut and uncut. But anyways, like I said, because there's only two outside areas on the structure, there's no way to actually see this Warthog run within the normal confines of the game. And I wasn't planning on modding or using the Acrophobia skull. I didn't want to be able to fly, and I wanted to do this within the normal confines of Halo the Master Chief Collection. So I needed to find a way to get to an area where I could actually see this. And my first idea was somehow getting to the bottom of the map. But the bottom of the map is like 2,000 feet below the playable area, so how was I going to do this? Well, I'd need to get a dead player down there, alive. There is a way to do that, but first you need to activate a couple of skulls. We need to activate 4 skulls in total. One is the Sputnik skull, which gives greater mass acceleration to objects. 2 is the feather skull, which makes objects lighter and more susceptible to being moved. 3, we need the Bandanna skull for infinite ammo. This is just a convenience thing. And 4, we need the Black Eye skull, which will allow us to get double overshields by beating down enemies or our teammates. Now, before I get into the actual method to do this, I want to quickly shout out Dr. Biz because he's the one who discovered this. I'm just using it for my own purposes in order to see the Warthog run. I've linked his channel and the original tutorial below. So in order to execute what is called the Dead or Alive glitch on High Charity, I first needed to beat down my teammate a couple of times at the very beginning so I could get double overshields. This would make it far more convenient for me to do this trick because I would have a lot of enemies attacking me and the Black Eye skull doesn't allow shields to regenerate normally. You can get double overshields, but your overshields don't actually regenerate unless you beat something down and kill it. So after getting double overshields, I then needed to clear out every single enemy except for one in this area. Once you kill every enemy at the beginning, you get an automatic checkpoint, and we were going to save one enemy for this checkpoint later. But before we get to that, we need one tool. Normally there's a Flood Elite Infection form that carries a sword. We were going to need this sword to delay a checkpoint later. But after clearing out all the Flood in this area, I couldn't find the sword, so that meant I would have to restart the mission. So when you put on the Feather and Sputnik skull, elites and brutes are far more prone to falling off the edge, which is what I thought happened, but you can get to this sword Flood Infection elite by going up the right path at the beginning platform. If you get there quickly, he'll be there every single time. After picking up the sword, we then need to use it to move a crate in front of the first door. Now you'll see why we're doing this later, but we're going to need this crate for later to kill a player. Come on. So you have to be careful when trying to do this because the Flood Infection forms can hit you really far, and if you're not paying attention, you will fall off the edge. And if you've already procured the sword, that means that you need to restart the mission because you can't do this without it. Nice. Now that I had double over shields and this crate set up in front of the door, I needed to set up what is called a pinch. We need to have the second player dead but not able to spawn in. If done successfully, the normal waiting to respawn prompt will completely disappear because the space that you're in is too small for another player to spawn in. And the space that we're using for this particular map's Dead and Alive glitch is the cockpit of the Pelican. With the player that has the overshields and the sword in the Pelican, we now need to take a second player to a reserved enemy that we were saving from earlier. Now this part's really important. We need to make sure that this truly is the last enemy, and once you confirm that, you need to jump down and stick yourself, killing the enemy and yourself at the same time. The reason we need to do this is so that we're set up in the pinch with a checkpoint and we don't have to start from the beginning every single time we fail this. Now in Halo 2, dead players don't spawn in until their physical body hits something, and that means that falling off the edge on High Charity can lead to long respawn times. But if you wait enough time, you should see the waiting to respawn teammate in combat prompt completely disappear. That means you will have set this up correctly. At the same exact time, a checkpoint should be triggered because you killed the last enemy. Now that we have our pinch successfully set up and our checkpoint in place, I needed to exit this Pelican's cockpit swinging my sword as fast as I possibly could. The goal here was to delay a checkpoint and get the box into the next room without activating that checkpoint. To do this, you can't stop swinging your sword. It's the only way to get the second player to not respawn back in. This can be tricky because I need to be swinging my sword as this is happening. So if you're doing this yourself, I would recommend having the box directly in the middle of the door. I can't stop swinging my sword, but I also needed to get close enough to the doorway that I could start getting the crate in it. But this also leads to haphazard results and the crate flying everywhere when you don't have it perfectly in the middle of the door because it hits the edges. We need to get this crate into the middle of the room, and the reason that we need to do that is because we're going to use it to splatter our second player. When you have one player do the pinch in the Pelican and delay the checkpoint, a player biped that's actually invisible will spawn in this room. If you look closely at that light post where the brutes were just attacking, they were attacking a player. The glow that you see is the glow from the plasma rifle. According to Dr. Biz, this is the default spawn location for the biped when there's nowhere to spawn on the map. I needed to set my crate up right next to this in order to splatter him. I was going to use the sword to hit it fast into this player, and then they would spawn as a dead character but would be technically alive. But then I accidentally made a mistake. If you set up this crate while there's still enemies in this room, the second player won't spawn in because you're in combat. But because a flood messed me up as soon as I was about to do this, I turned around and killed him, not realizing he was the last enemy. Without any enemies in this area, and if I stop swinging my sword, the second player will spawn in. When that happens, the glowing beam, the player biped, completely disappears. If this disappears, you have to revert to the last checkpoint where you are in the pinch of the Pelican. Or, so I thought. Because all I need to do is ram this crate into this invisible player and kill them. It actually didn't matter if a second player spawned in, because I could just go back to the Pelican, set up the pinch again, and then take the box and kill the player. I just needed to make sure that the player was dead so the biped kept spawning in. I got the box set up and then I killed all the enemies in this area except for one. The reason I did this is because if you clear out all the enemies in this area, it leads to an automatic checkpoint. If I keep delaying my sword swing, I can get a checkpoint with the dead or alive player. With all of the enemies dead and my teammate not spawned in, all I needed to do was repeat the steps from earlier where I go keep swinging my sword and then stand in the Pelican's cockpit. Once I was again in the Pelican's cockpit, I stopped swinging my sword to trigger that automatic checkpoint. And because I set up the pinch again, this meant that I now had the crate right next to that invisible player model. All I needed to do was go back swinging my sword the entire time and hit the crate into it, and then they turn into a dead alive player. On my first attempt, I stopped swinging for half a second and my second player spawned in. When the blue light disappears, that means you need to revert to the last checkpoint, but this checkpoint setup is really convenient. Okay, so now we have our dead and alive player. So in order to go see the Warthog run, we need to now take this dead player and launch them all the way off the map. If I launch them off the map and then die, I will spawn at the bottom of the map if done successfully. So I'm going to launch them really far. And then they're going to go all the way to the bottom of the map, and I'm going to die in that time. So you see this player is still falling. It's a long, long way down. And boom, we're at the bottom of the map. But I have a little bit of a problem. I can't see on the anniversary graphics where the Warthog run would be. So I have to look up that issue real quick. So unfortunately, right after I got to the bottom of this map, I realized that I couldn't see in the Halo 2 anniversary graphics. I got a new computer and some of the settings were wrong, I guess. That meant that I had to restart this and do it all over again. And 20 minutes later, I was finally ready to get my dead player to the bottom of the map. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this Warthog run is really far over to this side of the map, so what I'm going to need to do is just launch this dead... Oh, no. Ah, there we go. So I wanted to try to get as close as I possibly could to this Warthog run. Now it's way outside of the map on High Charity, as I was mentioning earlier in the video, but with a dead player, I thought maybe I could hit them through the outside map barrier and get them further and closer to this run. In order to do that, I needed to throw frag grenades behind this player's body and launch them closer and closer to the map barrier. See it right there. So you can only see this Warthog run as a white tube in the sky and only if you're outside of the map. But even then, it can only be seen at certain angles. So when you're looking, it constantly flickers and disappears. Just a crazy amount of walking. I feel like I'm playing PUBG or something. In the classic graphics, you can't actually see anything, which is unfortunate. Basically, I'm just trying to get this dead player as far as I possibly can towards the map barrier. And then we'll see what I can do from there. Okay, a little bit further this way. Now, it's really hard to know in relation to like where anything is, like how far this actually is away, because like I said, here, I'll just look real quick. It's insanely far away. So you can't even see where the actual playable part of this mission is. And they didn't really expect anybody to get down here, so they didn't bother to texture this side of the tower at the beginning of High Charity, which is interesting in itself, I think. I mean, it's hard to tell, but like on my 32-inch monitor, I can see the pixels are starting to get closer of the tube, the white tube. So after about 10 minutes of walking, I was finally able to see whether I could get my dead player through the outside map barrier and closer to the Warthog run. Now, it's not possible to do this Warthog run normally within the confines of the game because they never actually added it. After beating my teammate over and over, I was able to successfully get his dead body through the outside map barrier. That's not good. He just goes right to the bottom of the map. He died. Well, I guess this is like the closest you can get to the Warthog run. That's try to get through the extra barrier, and I did get through it successfully, but the other player just fell to the bottom of the actual true map and died. I decided to walk all the way to the corner of the map to see if I could zoom in with my weapon to see this a little bit closer. And luckily, this is probably the only place that you can actually zoom in and see this close up. There we go. There it is. It's so beautiful. You can see the intricate design of the entire Warthog run there. A tube and another tube. Wow, yeah, you can see the whole backside of this isn't textured at all. It's about the closest I can get. Okay. Okay, folks, while you can't get to the cut Warthog run or the lost Warthog run, whatever you may call it, on High Charity, you can download a mod that lets you play it. And I'm going to play that now. So you can play this Warthog run, but only if you're on PC and if you download the Halo 2 Uncut mod. I've linked that below. Basically, all you need to do is go on Steam, subscribe to this mod, it will download, and then boot up Halo the Master Chief Collection with anti-cheat disabled. Here we are. We're at the Warthog run. Finally, gentlemen, you can see what it looks like. Once you play through the whole mission High Charity, at the end, you'll be able to play the Warthog run. Pretty sick. Give me the bridge. Can you actually see High Charity from here? Not really. This FOV is crazy. It's not very difficult so far. And there's not really any obstacles. This should be fun. See, this is the majority of that white tube, I'm pretty sure. It's just this area right here. I think that is actually the whole white tube. I'm floating? Weird. These guys can barely damage me. This is pretty sweet though. Let's take the alternate route. Yo, get tricked. You know, I kind of understand why they didn't... Oh my gosh, look at this guy. Okay, not too hard. And then you just go off the edge? You know, I can understand why they cut this. That was like the easiest Warthog, least Warthog run ever. The entire thing was basically just your Warthog floating. That's the Warthog run, gentlemen.